Come closer. The shadows have missed you, and tonight they have a new story to tell. Welcome to Scary Stories After Dark. (1986) Lost Hills, California. The storm rolled in without warning, thick heaving clouds the color of bruised flesh swallowing the moon. Nora Wilde stood barefoot on her back porch, heart tapping a strange frantic rhythm against her ribs. The air felt wrong tonight, too heavy, too alive, as if it were holding its breath. Lightning split the sky in a crooked red bolt. The world flickered, and the storm began to bleed. For a moment, barely 3 seconds, it rained red. Not thick, not gory, just a fine mist of crimson droplets that pattered softly across the porch boards, warm, metallic, almost steaming. Nora gasped and looked at her arm. Tiny specks of blood glowed faintly before evaporating into the cold air. "What?" she whispered, but her voice was swallowed by thunder that didn't sound like thunder at all. It sounded like something pulling itself awake. Deep in the woods behind her house, a second bolt struck the ground, red again, jagged like a skeletal hand. The earth trembled. A pulse crawled through Nora's bones, sharp as a needle, and she stumbled forward, gripping the railing. Her birthmark burned. The little red lightning scar on her temple, something she'd never given much thought, throbbed in sync with the storm. Another pulse. Another tremor. And then she heard it. Not through her ears. Through her mind, a wet, gasping inhale, like something taking its first breath. Lightning flashed again, illuminating the tree line in a violent strobe, and for the briefest instant, Nora saw a silhouette crouched between the pines. Thin, tall, bent wrong, its single eye reflecting the stormlight like a molten coin. The creature shuddered, steam rising off its skin. Freshly born, freshly hungry. Nora's breath hitched. Fear flooded her chest, sharp and cold. The silhouette turned its head toward her, and the red sky tore open again. Morning came to Lost Hills in washed-out shades of gray, as if the storm had scraped the color from the town overnight. Nora Wilde hadn't slept. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw that silhouette between the pines, breathing steam, bending wrong, watching her with that singular molten eye. She told herself it was lightning, a trick of the dark, exhaustion. But the birthmark on her temple still throbbed like something beneath it wanted out. At school, life moved on with the hollow awkwardness of any 1980s Friday morning. Lockers slammed, sneakers squeaked on linoleum. A cassette player somewhere down the hall warbled a distorted Fleetwood Mac song, pitch-dipping low, like the batteries were dying. Nora walked to her locker, hugging her books close, scanning the hall in the same way she'd scanned the tree line hours earlier. Jace Carter noticed immediately. He leaned against the lockers, grease on his hoodie from another late-night radio repair. "You look like hell," he murmured, gentle, not teasing. He always seemed gentle with her. His dark eyes flicked to her temple. "Headache again?" A little. A lie. The truth throbbed under her skin like a trapped pulse. Daphne Bell skated past with a swirl of peppermint lip gloss and worry pinched between her brows. She slowed when she saw Nora. "You okay? You look pale." "Storm kept me up," Nora whispered. Daphne's skates clicked to a stop. "Yeah, that storm was weird. My mom said the grid flickered so bad they thought the whole plant was gonna blow." Weird didn't begin to cover it. Marlin emerged next, clutching a folder stuffed with hand-drawn weather patterns and storm maps. "You guys saw the lightning, right? That wasn't normal atmospheric discharge. It was refracting wrong, like the bolts were hitting something that wasn't." He cut himself off, eyes darting. "Forget it." And then Asher Hollis stopped in front of them, quiet, brooding denim jacket frayed at the elbows. His gaze locked onto Nora like he saw something no one else did. "You felt it," he said softly. Not a question. Nora swallowed hard. Because he was right. And behind her eyes, she still saw the silhouette breathing steam in the trees. The storm returned that night with no warning, rolling over lost hills in a slow, suffocating crawl. Nora felt it before she heard it. A pressure behind her eyes, a metallic taste on her tongue, a distant hum vibrating under her skin like a radio tuned between stations. By the time she reached the old trail behind the train tracks, the others were already waiting. Flashlights flickered weakly in the fog. Jace stepped forward, jaw clenched. "You said you felt something, like last night." Nora didn't answer. She simply pointed toward the tree line. Because the air was splitting, quietly, impossibly, like fabric being pulled apart. A ripple of crimson light crawled across the bark. The woods held their breath. Then lightning stabbed the earth, carving a red wound into the soil. Wind pulsed outward in a slow, unnatural burst that smelled like burnt iron. Mar whispered, "Oh my God, the electrical charge isn't dissipating, it's pooling, like it's..." The ground cracked, a sound seeped out, wet, dragging, animal. Daphne grabbed Nora's arm. "We shouldn't be here." Asher moved in front of them, flashlight trembling in his grip. Too late, because the tear burst open. A shape clawed its way through the fissure, half in shadow, half in flickering red light. Tall, thin, skin slick with steam, its single enormous eye glowed like a furnace ember, dilating as it found them. Then it stood fully upright. A Scarfang, fresh born, slick with red lightning scars, fangs clicking wetly. The creature inhaled sharply, ribs expanding like a bellows. The air around it shimmered, heat waves warping the trees. It turned its head toward the group and charged. It moved like a glitch in reality, fast, stuttering, impossible. Nora screamed as Jace yanked her backward, the creature tearing past them so close its heat singed her hair. Daphne fell hard on the gravel. The Scarfang pivoted in an instant, eye locking onto her, and the creature slashed. A spray of thin, hot blood arced across the broken stones. Daphne screamed. The Scarfang shrieked back, a sound like metal twisting in a fire. Asher swung his flashlight at its head with a cracking thud. "Run!" he roared, because the tear was still open, and something else was moving inside it. They didn't stop running until the trees thinned and the gravel path spat them into the clearing behind the abandoned radio tower. Daphne clutched her arm, breath shaking in her throat, crimson streaking her sleeve where the Scarfang's claws had grazed her. The bleeding wasn't heavy, but the wound glowed faintly, as if the creature's touch had left heat trapped beneath her skin. Nora pressed a trembling hand to her own chest. "It followed us," she whispered. Because the air still hummed, low, electric, hungry. A rumble rolled across the sky, the clouds swirling above them in slow red spirals. Lightning forked silently through the storm, illuminating the woods in stuttering pulses. And then the world flickered. Once, twice, like a dying bulb. Nora blinked, and the forest around her blurred, the pines elongated into black spires. The gravel under her shoes rippled like molten stone. Shadows stretched long and thin, writhing at the edges of her vision. She gasped, because she wasn't just seeing lost hills anymore. She was seeing beneath it the red veil. Buildings appeared as skeletal outlines, houses she recognized from town, but hollowed, melted, dripping red light from their windows like open wounds. The ground was cracked black glass, glowing with pulsing veins. The sky churned in shades of boiling scarlet. And deeper in the trees, silhouettes moved, long-limbed, hunched. Dozens of them. Scarfangs, but older. Bigger. Some with multiple glowing eyes. Some dragging razor-thin limbs through the dirt like blades. A soft, distant whisper rippled across the air, like a child humming through a radio. Asher froze beside her, breath hitching. "Nora, what are you seeing?" She couldn't answer. She could hardly breathe. Because one of the silhouettes in the red veil stood taller than the tower itself, its body a tangle of lightning scars, ribs opening and closing like a monstrous bellows. Its eye flared white-hot, scanning the forest with predatory focus. The veil flickered again. For a heartbeat, the creature saw her. And every vein in Nora's skull throbbed at once. The vision snapped away. The normal forest snapped back. But the hum remained. Low, hungry, alive. And Nora knew. The Scarfang in the woods wasn't alone. It was just the first. The fog moved strangely that night, low to the earth, rippling like breath instead of drifting like mist. Daphne's arm was wrapped in bandages. The glow beneath her skin finally faded, but the memory of the Scarfang's claws lingered in every tremble of her fingers. They stuck together after school, not daring to split up. Lost Hills felt wrong. Too quiet. Too watchful. As dusk bled into night, the streetlights flickered along Redwood Lane, casting broken halos through the drifting fog. Nora walked a little ahead, one hand pressed to her ribs, unsettled by the heaviness in the air. She could hear the hum again, faint, almost polite this time, like something clearing its throat behind reality. Asher's voice cut through the dark. "Stay close. I don't like." A crack split the silence. Not thunder. Not a branch. Something landing. Hard. Nora spun. The Scarfang stood at the far end of the street, steam rising off its flesh. Its scars glowed faintly, pulsing in slow, rhythmic waves. Its single eye rolled toward them, widening with a shudder that vibrated the streetlight above. It saw Daphne first and charged. Daphne screamed, stumbling backward as Mar grabbed her wrist. Asher shoved Jace toward Nora. "Move! Move!" They bolted. The Scarfang's footsteps hit the pavement like breaking bones. It leapt onto a parked car, denting the roof, claws carving long gashes in the metal as it vaulted forward. Nora gasped when its eye met hers, just for a flash. The creature stuttered mid-stride. A glitch, a hesitation, barely a second. But enough. Jace dragged her behind the old roller rink. The back alley reeked of oil and dust. The neon sign above buzzed in a failing sputter. Daphne slipped on broken glass. Blood dotted the concrete, glistening darkly under the flickering light. The Scarfang shrieked, a high metallic howl that split the night. A signal, a summons, a hunger. The ground trembled as it rounded the corner, claws scraping, eye blazing. Nora's heart pounded. The hum in her skull grew louder. And for a moment, just a breath. The streetlights dimmed when she exhaled. They hid in Jace's garage as the storm thickened outside, thunder rolling low like a creature clearing its throat. The single bulb overhead swung on its cord, casting broken shadows across tool benches and stacks of dusty milk crates. Daphne sat on an overturned paint can, pressing gauze to her arm, pale but steady. The others paced or hovered, trying not to look at the boarded-up window where the Scarfang had slammed its claws minutes earlier. Nora stood apart, breathing too quietly, too evenly. Her skin felt hot and tight, like something simmering beneath it. Asher noticed first. He always did. "Your mark," he whispered, stepping closer. "It's glowing." Nora blinked. "What?" "The birthmark on your temple," Jace said, voice rough with fear he didn't want her to hear. "It wasn't like that before. Nora, it's..." He stopped as lightning flashed outside, painting the garage in a violent pulse of red light. For a moment, her birthmark answered it, a faint red flicker, a heartbeat, a pulse beneath her skin. Daphne shivered. "My mom works the power grid. She said lightning patterns sometimes leave residual burns, but that..." She pointed with trembling fingers. "That looks like the scars on those things." Mar's hands trembled around the pages of folded storm charts. "The patterns from last night's lightning strike, the one that hit behind your house." He swallowed hard. "Nora, it matches your mark exactly, down to the branching." Nora stepped back, breath catching in her throat. "I was born with this," she whispered. Her voice shook for the first time. "We know," Asher said softly. "But what if you weren't just born during the storm? What if you were marked by it?" The bulb overhead flickered. Once, twice, and then all the lights went out at once. A sharp pop, a spray of sparks, the garage plunging into dark. Outside, the Scarfang shrieked, a sound like metal dragging across bone. Nora's birthmark glowed faintly in the blackness. And for the first time, she felt it. A small electric pulse that didn't come from fear, but from inside her. The storm swallowed Lost Hills whole. Red lightning cracked from horizon to horizon, each strike bending the air like molten glass. The teens pushed through the woods behind the radio tower, branches clawing their jackets, the earth trembling beneath their feet. The Scarfang shriek still echoed somewhere behind them, thin and metallic, growing angrier with every heartbeat. Nora led without meaning to. Something inside her chest pulled. A magnetic tug, gentle but undeniable. The moment they reached the clearing, the world split open. A seam in the air, thin, trembling, glowing red like a wound. It fluttered like fabric caught in wind, but the wind was wrong. It blew inward, as though the world on the other side were breathing them in. Jace staggered backward. No. No way. This can't. The veil pulsed. The clearing warped. And Lost Hills peeled away like old wallpaper. In its place rose a nightmare landscape, skeletal forests of blackened trees, cracked stone glowing with pulsing red veins, a sky swirling in endless storm, distant structures shaped like twisted echoes of their hometown, melted and hollow. The red veil. Daphne clutched Nora's sleeve, voice barely audible. It looks like us, like our world, but burned, Asher whispered, like it died here. The air stank of ozone and scorched metal. Tiny sparks floated upward from the ground like glowing embers. A distant rumble rolled beneath their feet, steady, rhythmic, like a heartbeat. Then shapes moved in the haze. Scarfangs. Dozens. Some hunched low, others towering, their scars glowing brighter the closer they came. Their bodies twitched with electricity, limbs stuttering as though reality struggled to hold them in place. One of the larger ones paused, its massive eye sweeping across the wasteland. It sensed them. Nora's breath hitched, her birthmark throbbed in reply. The creature's head snapped toward her, a low, guttural sound pressed into the soil, something between a growl, a glitch, and a distant cry. It knew her. All of them did. The veil rippled behind the teens, shrinking, trembling, threatening to close. Nora stepped forward without thinking. The lightning under her skin hummed. And the red veil answered. The red veil convulsed around them, light bending and shattering as if the world were made of cracked glass. The air pulsed with every distant heartbeat rumbling beneath the stone. The Scarfangs moved through the haze in twitching, predatory arcs, each one jerking closer, their massive eyes glowing like molten wounds. Go! Asher shoved Jace and Mar toward the shrinking tear, teeth clenched against the rising wind. Before it closes, the veil split again, just a sliver, trembling violently. Electricity crawled up Nora's arms. She didn't understand it, didn't want to, but she felt the tear weakening, felt the veil exhale with a sound like grief. The Scarfangs surged forward, shrieking, stones shattered under their claws. Daphne screamed as one leapt toward her, and the ground exploded in front of it. A bolt of red lightning struck from nowhere, flinging the creature backward in a burst of steam. The others gaped, but Nora felt the echo of the strike humming through her bones. They ran. The tear pulsed in front of them, shrinking, flickering, as if it were choosing whether or not to let them leave. Mar dove through first. Daphne stumbled after him, blood streaking her sleeve. Jace grabbed Nora's hand, pulling her forward, voice cracking. "Nora, now." She hesitated. Just one heartbeat. The Scarfangs froze, every single one. Their bodies twitched with recognition, as if she were a signal, a frequency, a sound they'd been listening for. Nora tore her gaze away and leapt through the veil. The world snapped. Cold air slammed into her lungs as she hit the forest floor of Lost Hills. The tear sealed behind them with a soft, reluctant sigh. The storm above dissolved into a thin smear of quiet clouds. For a moment, the only sound was the ragged breathing of 5 terrified teens who had somehow survived. Daphne began to sob. Asher pressed his back to a tree, shaking. Jace leaned into Nora, forehead touching hers, whispering, "It's over." But Nora couldn't answer, because the ground beneath her palm vibrated, softly, like a heartbeat under soil. A faint spark flicked between her fingertips. Her birthmark pulsed once, twice, responding to something deep below. The veil was closed, but the storm raged within her now,